Kentucky basketball might have had the biggest recruiting story of the 2025 class on campus this past weekend. Could the Wildcats secure the services of the Boozer twins?
You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what is going on, Big Blue Nation? Welcome on in to Locked On Kentucky, your daily Kentucky Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Lance Dawe, writer for Sports Illustrated for various SEC-related things. But on this podcast, we take a dive into all things Kentucky athletics. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. And that's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. You can post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. On today's episode of Locked On Kentucky, we are going to be discussing the Boozer twins taking an official visit to Kentucky basketball. This may be the biggest recruiting story of the 2025 class, a very Duke flavor, big-time Duke flavor here in the 2025 class. Could the Wildcats secure the commitment of both Boozer twins? Going to talk about that on today's episode. Also, on today's episode, exhibition games have been announced for Kentucky basketball. Two of them, in fact, going to talk about those different games and what we could learn, maybe, in those first couple of matchups for UK. Thank you so much for making Locked On Kentucky your first listen every single day. Want to remind everyone out there, we're free and available on all platforms. If you're listening on YouTube, I almost said watching and listening, and ended up saying listening. Like I'm Elmer Fudd. But if you're listening on podcast, please go ahead and subscribe there. If you're watching on YouTube, it would be much appreciated if you gave us a sub there. Got some great basketball content for you guys coming up here as we get closer and closer to the start of the season. Practice is about to start. I'm very excited about it. Let's go ahead and get into today's episode. Cameron and Cayden Boozer have taken an official visit to UK, and let me tell you something. They looked great in the blue and white, and thankfully this time it was not Duke. It was not Duke flavor or Duke flavor here. As you know, Carlos Boozer, the father of these two twins, was a standout with the Blue Devils, and that's kind of where the race resides right now, according to the national media. If you look around, you'll see a lot of people talking about, okay, well, it looks like the Boozer twins are going to, at the very least, strongly consider going to play for their father's alma mater, and they're probably going to end up being Blue Devils. But they've kind of taken their time. They've gone around. They've looked at different places to go: Miami, Florida, Florida State, Kentucky now, and we're starting to see the Wildcats make more effort to get some push here in this recruitment. In case you don't know who these two individual players are, I'll explain it to you on today's episode. So starting with Cameron, the higher ranked of the two brothers, but obviously both of them very, very highly ranked. 5-star prospect, 6'9", 235 pounds. Cameron, obviously out of Columbus High School, alongside his brother in Miami, the number one player in the 2025 class, according to 24/7 Sports, and according to the 24/7 Sports composite rankings. He's also the number one player, the number one power forward, the number one player in the state of Florida. He is a perfect score of 100 according to the 24/7 Sports player rating system, and according to the composite, he is a perfect 1.0000. So he is literally the perfect recruit. He is quite literally the perfect recruit in terms of what you're getting on paper coming out of high school. Florida has him visiting on November 3rd. Right now, he just wrapped up a visit with UK. This is a player, if you go and watch his highlights, that just looks like he knows what he's doing, and it's not necessarily flashy. He just is going out there and getting it done. He can score in a variety of ways. I think he's really, really nice and strong around the basket. I would not say that his outside game is a very I wouldn't necessarily say it's a strong area of his game, but it's certainly there. If you would like to have it at 6'9", I like his confidence. I like his poise. I like his flow to his game. He's a very smooth basketball player. And we talk about that word smooth whenever you talk about these different high-profile recruits that Kentucky is taking a look at coming out of high school. There are certain players that we've identified here on the show as we've gone through a number of recruitments and just been impressed with how they operate in the high school game compared to their surroundings. It's just very clear that they're special. And when you go and watch Cameron Boozer's film, I wouldn't necessarily say that there's anything like, whoa, flashy. I wouldn't say that he's like an explosive dunker, like he's dunking on, like he can definitely flush it down. I'm just saying it's not like his highlights are insane. It's just he's going out there and he's getting it done, especially around the rim on both ends of the floor. Just kind of floaty as well. I wouldn't say that he's like a crazy high jump. I wouldn't say that he has like a crazy high vert, but man, it just looks natural for him. It just looks really, really easy for him to play basketball. And you got to see during the Peach Jam, if you want to go look up those highlights, it's on the NBA YouTube channel. Him and his brother, Caden, I mean, they look really good together. Combined for 31 points and 17 assists, just flowed very well and just dominated the opposing team. I believe it was actually Russell Westbrook's high school team. Not like his high school where he went, just like the team that he put together. But anyway, point being, Cameron Boozer would be a must-get out of these two twins because of what he provides you 2 seasons from now at that position. Immediate contributions as a starter. I think that you could see him dominate the SEC because of his just natural, calm, just a fluid style of play. He can get buckets in college. I think that this dude can absolutely get buckets in college. And he'd be in the running for first overall pick in the 2020, at that point, 2025 in an NBA draft. Cameron Boozer just flows, man. Just a very special player. And then his brother, Cayden Boozer, is also a 5-star player. He's a point guard at 6'3", 190 pounds, again out of Miami. Number 17 player overall, number 4 point guard, and number 4 player in the state of Florida, according to the 24/7 Sports Composite. So both these guys 5 stars. I don't have anything on Caden, the point guard's draft potential here, but according to NBADraftRoom.com for Cameron Boozer, this is what they have to say about him. These are the notes that they have on the 6'9" forward. Cameron Boozer is an elite recruit who projects as one of the top guys in the 2025 recruiting class, if not the top prospect in all of high school basketball. His twin brother, Caden, is a high-level recruit as well. Son of Carlos Boozer, has a similar skill set to his old man with a nice ability to score in a variety of ways. He's developing a nice three-point shot and has some small forward skills and is very comfortable with the ball in his hands in space. And if you go and watch his highlights, I can definitely confirm it's just natural. He just handles the ball smoothly. It's not like aggressive or panicky. He just going out there and getting the work done, man. I'm very impressed. And NBA Draft Room says, has an incredibly advanced game for a player his age, showing a level of polish that you normally find at the college or the pro level. He's well built already and has plenty of time to grow into his frame and develop his athleticism. And this is actually something I want to point out about the Boozer twins. If you go and actually look at them compared to other high school players, Cayden Boozer, 6'3", 190, every bit of 190. These dudes look strong. They are very controlled with their body. They aren't just like flailing all over the place. Sometimes you'll see these big-time prospects coming out of high school, and they'll be like 6'9", 6'10", 6'11", and they'll have wiry frames, and they don't look like they feel comfortable within their own body. Their frame doesn't allow them to move as fluidly as maybe they would like. With these guys, it's just immediate. Like, you can tell immediately. These guys are under control. These guys are very well, I think, as far as high school players go, relative to the other players that they're facing off against, they've developed, and I think they would continue to do so during their time at a place like UK as far as strength training and stuff like that goes. Both these guys, very in control whenever they have the ball in their hands. So, yeah, I'm very impressed with Cameron, very impressed with Caden as well. Again, just a strong frame. I did not get a chance to see a lot of Cayden Boozer shooting the basketball, but whenever it comes to his court vision, it's just, again, go back to what I was saying earlier. It's just very natural, the way that these guys handle the ball and the way that they distribute it. Both of them, actually, getting in and getting out and running and distributing the basketball. Just great vision, great eyes, and then great passing ability as well. to have both these guys, I think would be incredibly special for UK in an upcoming season. That would be the 2025 season. So you look at what they were doing this weekend with the Wildcats, and I think we can sit here and say that we have confidence now that Kentucky's in the race. I will get to the quotes in a little bit, but I'm not quite sure if I'm like completely sold on like them being sold on UK. I want to dive into that in just a second. Before we do that, though, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at LinkedIn Jobs. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available, and that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. You can add your job to the purple hashtag hiring frame on your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. They have really simple tools like screening questions to make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you would like to interview and hire. Small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number one in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. They help you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. You can post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That is linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. All right, continuing along here on the Monday edition of Locked On Kentucky. Lance Dawe hanging out here with you. Really appreciate you making Locked On Kentucky your first listen every single day. If you have not checked out the Locked On College Basketball Podcast with Andy Patton and Isaac Shade, I would strongly encourage you to do so. They do a phenomenal job over there on that podcast. They have me on, they have coaches, they have analysts, they have other hosts of Locked On shows here across the network. So I would strongly encourage you to go check them out. They're constantly talking about things in Kentucky basketball's realm. In fact, they're probably talking about the Boozer Twins and what they did this weekend with UK as well. So go check them out. They always provide great insight and information with what's going on in the college basketball world and a little bit more insight on the Wildcats. So Caden and Cameron Boozer, we've identified very good players. Don't really need to say that, but we break it down anyway for you. Very under control, very polished, coming out of high school, 2025 class kids, both 5 stars, point guard, power forward, twins. Father played at Duke. Duke's in the running. Kentucky's in the running. What did they have to say about their official visit to UK? Well, I wasn't necessarily excited about what they had to say about their visit to UK, but I was not like turned off by it. And I'll go ahead and get to the quotes here. So this is what Cameron Boozer told KSR, I believe, either earlier this week or earlier this year. I don't have to stress it with schools recruiting me. I'm wide open. Whatever school wants me and pushes for me, if I see a good fit, it's where I'm going to go. They were asked about whether or not they could go play at the same school together. It would be a blessing to go with him. Caden, instead of playing in college with Cam, it could happen, but I'm not really sure if it's going to happen. We've got to see if it's the best fit for both of us. So you can see there that immediately it's just like, okay, there are a lot of things out there talking about these two guys potentially going and playing with each other in college ball, and I think that they're probably going to do so. I would be surprised if they didn't. But you can see it there that they are not necessarily sold on coming to the same spot. Maybe just yet. They'll have to wait and see. They were asked about Kentucky. Obviously, it's a great program all time. Always have great players and successful players in the NBA. It's a good school that knows how to develop players for the next level. So just pretty generic talk. I mean, what else is he going to say? But pretty generic talk. Caden was asked about it. He said, it was great receiving an offer. I've been watching Kentucky since I was young. They're always in the tournament, always having a school like Kentucky offer me a school that's a winning program. It's a great feeling for sure. Not quite sure if I'm really excited about the quotes there, because it just doesn't really seem like there's a whole lot going on about like what they've had to say about UK and what they would have to say about like actually getting, like, it just didn't seem like fired up. Will be curious to see how the Florida visit goes. I'll be curious to see how they respond to Duke interactions in the future, to see if there's anything extra juicy to take away from interviews in the future. It's a step in the right direction. I think getting them on campus, I want to be very clear, it's a step in the right direction to get these guys here and on campus and getting to interact with Coach Cal and the staff and recruiting them. That's great. You have to in order to get in with such talented players like Cameron and Cayden. I just want to see a little bit more. I want to see Kentucky, push this a little bit further, because I'm not completely sold that they're leading the race right now. And obviously, we are a year away plus from figuring out, where the race is going to end. I think, at least that's what I'm speculating, but you want to see more out of this recruitment as it continues to go on. So nothing particularly special said about UK, at least not that I'm aware of. And I really hope that we're able to hear more information about excitement, I guess, from these two guys, and excitement with this recruiting as it continues to go. And I want to be very clear one more time. It's the early stages of this recruitment. Obviously. But I want to see a little bit more, just a little bit more from UK and from the Boozer twins, so that I can feel good about talking about Kentucky getting them, because right now I don't know if they will. So if you've got any thoughts on Cameron or Cayden Boozer, the twins, their comments, or how Kentucky needs to get into this race, you can leave that in the YouTube comments below, or hit me on the socials at Locked On UK. We've got exhibition games to talk about here. Really excited about these two games that the Wildcats are going to be playing. What could we learn from UK in these first couple of matchups? Going to talk about that in just a second. Before we do that, though, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at Athletic Brewing. It's now time for the Game Changer of the Week, brought to you by Athletic Brewing Company. Much like Maxwell Hairston, who had 2 pick sixes against Vanderbilt this weekend, Athletic Brewing has completely changed the non-alcoholic beer game. They make non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good. If you did not see it, it's kind of the reason that the Wildcats pulled away from the Vanderbilt Commodores. Maxwell Hairston got 2 pick sixes against the Commodores. Just great performance there from Maxwell, getting those turnovers and cashing in. Kentucky's got 3 pick sixes now on the season. And shout out to Maxwell for being in the right spot at the right time, changing the game for the Wildcats and helping them pull away from Vandy. Obviously, Kentucky secondary going to probably need a little bit more of that as they head into their matchup with Florida at home this weekend. Athletic Brewing Company has completely changed the non-alcoholic beer game, just like Maxwell Hairston did against the Vanderbilt Commodores. They make non-alcoholic beers, like I said, that actually taste really good, full of flavor, and they're well-crafted, just like a full-strength beer. Their brews are great tasting and award-winning, and they beat out full-strength beers in global competitions. They also brew over 50 styles of craft non-alcoholic beer, including IPAs, Goldens, sours, and more on top of that. And they're constantly releasing limited edition experimental styles to add to their variety. You can find Athletic Brewing Company's non-alcoholic brews at a store near you, or you can buy them online at athleticbrewing.com. First-time customers can use code LOCKEDON to get a 15% off discount on your first online order. That's code LOCKEDON at checkout for 15% off at athleticbrewing.com. Near beer, exclusions and conditions apply. That's Athletic Brewing Company, fit for all times. All right, wrapping up the Monday edition of Locked On Kentucky. Lance Dawe hanging out here with you. One more time, if you've not followed me on the socials at Locked On UK, you can also follow me on Twitter at LanceDawe_. Check us out. Got a lot of fun content going up there as well. And if you want to ask any questions for the show, leave them in the comments below, or you can just tag me. Just tag me on Twitter, ask me a question, and then I'll get to it here on an episode. So Kentucky basketball has 2 exhibition games coming up before the start of the season. They announced, actually today, they are set to take on Georgetown College on Friday, October 27th, and Kentucky State on Thursday, November 2nd. Both games will be played at Rupp Arena in downtown Lexington. The Wildcats' regular season begins on Monday, November 6th, at home against New Mexico State, according to the press release from Kentucky on their website. The game against Kentucky State will serve as the 2023 version of the Unity Series, In each of the past 2 seasons, Kentucky has played a regular season contest against a historically black college and university, but this season will partner with Kentucky State. The game aims to raise awareness of the missions of the HBCUs and to raise funds to provide opportunities for students at their institutions. Awesome stuff there. During the first 2 years of its partnership with the HBCUs, the Wildcats and their opponents have participated in educational field trips to the National Underground Railroad Freedom Museum in Cincinnati. They were given resources to better brand themselves in the new name, image, likeness space, and were provided career center resources and participated in joint dinners at John Calipari's radio show. Really awesome stuff there to get to an opportunity to play Kentucky State in this Unity Series. That is the second game of the exhibition here. And then the first game of the exhibition is against Georgetown College. It's not the Georgetown Hoyas. It is Georgetown College. It will mark the 4th time the teams have met in an exhibition game, according to the press release. The teams first met in 2005, with Kentucky winning 85-63. It will be the 3rd time under Calipari that Kentucky has welcomed the Tigers to Rupp Arena. In the last meeting in 2019, UK prevailed 80-53. Prior to the 2005 matchup, the teams last met in 1938 in the regular season. So, it is the second season straight that the Cats will welcome the Thoroughbreds for an exhibition game. Kentucky is 3-0 in such games, with Kentucky State visiting Rupp in 2015, 2019, and 2022. A year ago, Kentucky used 23 points from Antonio Reeves to top the Thoroughbreds by a 111-53 score. Dawe Thiero had 7 points, 5 boards. Ugonna Onyenso led the way with boards with 11 rebounds and also had 4 block shots. So that kind of helps us there at the end of that press release to kind of step into the conversation I want to have here before we wrap up the show. What are some things that we could learn about Kentucky in these exhibition games? Obviously, I think that when you talk about the 2 major college sports, football and basketball, football obviously doesn't have exhibition games, but what they do have are spring games. And whenever we've gotten to talk about them here on the show, we've been pretty direct in saying there's not a whole lot that you can take away from a team playing itself in April. There's just not. You have to see them play legitimate competition, and then you can finally start to get some answers. Whenever you look at UK and exhibition games, it's still a little bit of that scenario where it's just like, okay, you're not finding out maybe as much as you want to, especially considering that you get to see players that may not play as much in the regular season do some things within the exhibition that, again, they normally wouldn't do, i.e. Thiero and Onyenso, like the press release just said, doing some things for UK that you normally wouldn't say or see during big-time non-con games or SEC games. Obviously, that's going to change a little bit, I think, this season. But point being, for your younger players that are rotational pieces, I think we're going to get to see a lot of them. That's the first thing that we can take away, I think, from these exhibitions. You're going to get to see the entire scope of the roster, from the starters all the way down to players like Joey Hart. You're going to get to see this UK team run deep and figure out, okay, what does each player do kind of well with each other in a Rupp Arena environment against another college opponent. Now, I don't think it's going to be the end-all, be-all, or be-all, end-all for what Kentucky decides to do this upcoming season. I'm not sitting here saying that they're going to get through 2 games and say, okay, well, we got to see this and this from DJ Wagner, so therefore he will only do this and this season. I'm not saying that. I'm saying for guys like Reed Shepherd, for guys like Rob Dillingham, like I said, Joey Hart, Dawe Thiero. Obviously, you're going to get to see players like Trey Mitchell get a little bit more chemistry going with his UK brethren. You're going to see Kentucky really move these guys around, I think, and we'll just get to learn a little bit about them and their play style, and whether they hit shots or not, I don't necessarily think is like a true reflection of what they are capable of this upcoming season. I think it's just going to be fun to make notes about, okay, well, whenever Hart came into the game, whenever Jordan Burks had his opportunities, we got to see him flash this aspect of his game that we didn't get to see during the Global Jam. We got to see maybe Kentucky play a little bit more sound of team defense, communicating. Maybe they're really strong rebounding still, and maybe that's a topic of discussion heading into the season. Like, well, Kentucky's really doing a great job of having effort and crashing the glass because they have a little bit more height and they have a lot of players they can rotate. There are several things that we can learn about this team because of how deep they're going to run. So that's the first thing that I think we're going to learn here. We're also going to get to see, just to continue to talk about young players, how this core operates with each other. There are going to be moments in this exhibition game where Kentucky puts out their strongest lineup. There's just straight up going to be moments where you see DJ Wagner, Antonio Reeves, Justin Edwards, Aaron Bradshaw, and whoever Kentucky needs to start at center. Or you flip it and you have Bradshaw at center, you have Mitchell at power forward if you need to. If it's Onyenso, if it's Mitchell, it doesn't matter. They're going to have moments where they have those guys out there. You're going to get to see how these guys act. First time in Rupp Arena, in front of a crowd, how do they handle themselves? You're going to get to be able to do that twice before you play New Mexico State. In New Mexico State, no disrespect to them, it's just the reality of the situation. There's a significant talent gap there, and the Wildcats are going to be favored to win. You're probably going to see UK win that game. They're a step up in competition from Kentucky State and Georgetown College, but it's another opportunity to kind of get together with your guys in the environment that you're going to be working in for this upcoming year. So you get those two opportunities, and then you get New Mexico State. So it's really just kind of building a runway, if you will, whenever you have your lineups out there that are the best of the best for UK. So that's the second thing. It's essentially kind of ties into the first. It's just getting to see your depth and then getting to see how does your best lineup perform whenever you go out there and tell them to be their best. What does that look like? And then I think the final thing that we can take away from these exhibitions is, again, it doesn't really matter if they make the shots or not. I'm more curious about the shot selection for the Wildcats. During the Global Jam, shot selection, excellent. No mid-range jumpers. Oh my gosh, thank goodness we did not see a ton of mid-range jumpers. We saw some straightaway threes, we saw some layups, and we saw a lot of points scored. And that's, I think, what we need to see more of through these exhibition games, through the New Mexico State game, as we ramp up into more difficult play. I want to see how Kentucky's offense has changed. If they truly have, how have they changed? That's what I'm going to be looking for. It's the third thing that I'm going to be looking for in this one. How does this change with John Calipari making some adjustments there? So those are the three things that I'm going to be looking for. If you have any thoughts on that, you can leave that in the YouTube comments below. And that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Kentucky. You can follow the show on Twitter at LockedOnUK. You can follow me on Twitter at LanceDawe_, and you can follow the show over on Instagram. That is at Kentucky Podcast. Any questions, comments, concerns, leave those in the YouTube comments below. Hit me on the socials. I will see you all tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Kentucky. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and God bless.